It was this overnight transition. We had 20,000 followers within 24 hours. I had no supply chain, no specs, no recipes. And they called back and they said, look, it's the Queen. We'd like you to make a cake for the Queen for her birthday.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Jill Spills, where this week we are spilling the tea on all things cake. Today I am joined by the founder of Pleese, Joe Moruzzi. Hello.
How's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Really good, really good. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for joining with us today on the couch. So, Pleese, started off with cheesecakes. You are now into frozen cheesecakes, which we'll come on to more about. So we want to chat about how it all began for you, what Pleese is about. You did start off as a painter and decorator, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. No experience in the food and beverage industry. So been on this incredible journey, I suppose. So formerly known as Pleese Cakes.
Yeah.
Kind of changed the name, which we probably can get into a little bit down the line. But basically the story goes is my dad made a cheesecake one day back in 2015, 2016 kind of time. And it was a Sunday dinner and he made this cheesecake, no bake cheesecake. And it was kind of okay. It wasn't great, but it kind of prompted me to give it a go. So I was like, this is kind of easy. It's no bake, easy entry into the baking world. The measurements didn't have to be too precise. So I thought, let's give it a go. Did it, loved the sort of element of being creative, love food, love being creative, kind of joined them together. And it kind of progressed from there. So I was like making these cheesecakes, experimenting with flavors. I'd go to the supermarket, get ingredients, bring it back to my parents' kitchen, make these cheesecakes and give them out to friends and family. And I was getting more and more feedback from friends and family. Yeah. And it kind of inspired me and allowed me to progress, albeit like I could not even, the model was rubbish, right? So the business model was rubbish. I was like, I couldn't even get the cake tin off the bottom of the cake ring. So every time I gave it out, I'd have the cake tin on it. I'd have to buy a new cake tin every time. So the model was really flawed at that stage. But it got to a point in late 2016, and I've still got the notepad on my desk or at home. And I was like, how can I make a bit of extra cash on the side of my painting company? And so I started jotting notes down and this most basic business plan. And it was like, sell cheesecakes, large cheesecakes, mini cheesecakes by the slice, flavor combinations, social media. And it was all just like written out very basically. And I started doodling the name and the logo, and Pleese Cakes was the first and only name that I had for this company. And then I downloaded the app Canva, designed the logo, which was pretty rubbish. And I set up an Instagram account, uploaded the logo, posted 6 photos that I'd taken on my phone in the back garden. And that was it. That was kind of the start of the journey. My intention was to sell 4 or 5 cakes a month. And I really didn't plan for it to go the way it did.
So what made you, was it because your dad done that cheesecake, or did you always have a little bit of love for like cooking and exploring there? Or was it that day and you thought, oh, hang on a minute?
It was food in general. Like, I love food. I'm a foodie at heart. I've been brought up around good food. So my dad's Italian side of things. So always good quality homemade cooking, you know. And I wasn't really like dessert focused nor cheesecake focused. It wasn't like a real passion of mine. Sticky toffee pudding is my favorite dessert, by the way. So I incorporated that further down the line. But just love food. And because it was fairly simple to get involved with the no bake cheesecake, it kind of prompted me to continue. And that's where the journey began, really. That's kind of how it started. And then we've been on this absolute roller coaster of a journey since. So that was 7.5 years ago now.
Wow. So tell us a bit more. So you got to the point of the social media. Where was the point where you started recognizing this could go big? Like, I need to really start getting more and more baking and ideas and...
So January the 3rd, I posted these 6 photos. And then 3 days later, January the 6th of 2017, Joe Wicks shared the page to his following. And it wasn't planned. I didn't ask him to do it. He just kind of, and it was on his main feed as well. So he screenshotted my page, put it onto his main feed. He was like, go follow my mate. Like, he's selling these cheesecakes now. And it was like overnight. So it was this overnight transition. Wow. So we had 20,000 followers within 24 hours. I was still operating out of my parents' kitchen. I had no supply chain, no specs, no recipes, no facilities, no health and safety accreditations, nothing. So there was an instant demand. And so it was almost overnight I gave up painting and decorating. So it was like one day I was painting and decorating houses, the next day I was decorating and making these cheesecakes. And so I had to think very fast, very quickly. And I met Brendan, my business partner, in Bill's in Epsom the next day, and we said, look, we've got a demand here. Let's do something with it. And so we bought a freezer, domestic freezer, with 4 shelves in it. Like, you could fit hardly nothing in it.
Yeah.
You know the ones. And we turned up back at his flat in Epsom and said to his wife, look, we're cheesecake makers now. and it was like, it was a shock to like all our friends and family, because it was so instant, the transition. And then soon after, we found a shared kitchen in Croydon. So there's like 9 companies within this facility, like tiny little space, but it allowed us to operate at a bit more of a scale out of. And so we operated there for a whole year, and kind of progressed. But that first year was like a real learning curve for us. So no experience. We had people come on board. One of them was Ian Campbell, who was the ex-production manager of Greg's Bakery. So he managed like 200 people in one of their big production facilities. Okay. So health and safety, processes, costings, all that sort of stuff was sort of like fed into us by him at that early stage. And yeah, that was kind of how we started, and it was quite instant, right? So it was figuring out how to scale it and how to supply the demand.
Yeah. Know? So what were you feeling at that point? Like, was you just so focused on, I've got all these demands, I've got to get them out, or like pretty
much?
Like, was there sleepless nights?
I honestly can't tell you how many sleepless nights we've had over the last 7.5 years. Yeah. I say this because it's really, really hard to articulate how hard it's been. Like, you see stuff on social media, but like the sleepless nights, the stress, the anxiety, the depression, like everything is so intense. It's like the most intense form of anything, like building a business and growing and scaling. But yeah, basically it was kind of, we didn't really have time to think at that stage. It was just do and bring on people and try and fulfill orders and put out content. And back then, social media, you could grow quite organically. So Instagram was our predominant platform, and we were gaining followers week on week. And that influencer marketing scene was really was working. You know, we sent out free products and they'd post it and you'd gain loads of followers. Now that's obviously very saturated, very predictable. And so within 3 months we had a book deal by the March, and by June we were making a cake for the Queen. We appeared on ITV this morning a couple of times with Phil and Holly doing like segments, and then we launched in Selfridges, and like just loads of crazy stuff happening, kind of winging it basically. But not really like making like profit, trying to operate and trying to focus on these big cakes that were like very delicate, very overloaded, very Instagrammable, but not scalable, not healthy margins. Couldn't distribute them across the country. So it's like soon on, like within like by year 2, year 3, I was like looking at ways to like diversify the product range. You know, making smaller cheesecakes, outsourcing production. I was trying to work out how to scale this properly. So it took a long time to figure that out. So
going back to saying you made a cake for the Queen.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that come about? Like, I mean, and what cake did you make?
So it was June. It was like early June, and we were in the kitchen in Croydon. We're doing our day's work, which was like sometimes 20 hours a day. Sometimes we'd get in at 1 o'clock and leave at 10 o'clock the next, whatever it was. It were long old days. And we got a call. Sam, who's our director of operations now and shareholder in the company, took this call, and it was from McVitie's. And they said, look, we've got this VIP we want you to make a cake for. We said, okay, fine. Thought nothing of it. Got a call like 6 o'clock in the evening, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening. And they called back and they said, look, it's the Queen. We'd like you to make a cake for the Queen for her birthday. And so we had to acquire and sort of like get all McVitie's products and use only McVitie's products. We made 2 cakes, and we delivered it to Clarence House, which we had to get security clearance for. And I still don't know if she ate the product, right? I haven't got any like content of her like taking a selfie on her phone, but yeah, that must be
surreal.
It was an odd experience, and it's a great talking point and a moment in time of the company that's like incredible. So yeah.
So did you have to bake specifically what she wanted, or it was one of your creations?
Yeah, I had free reign, so I could do what I want.
So what did you do?
It was, I did like a white chocolate and vanilla one with like sort of relatable products from McVitie's on that. I think they do some white chocolate stuff and whatnot, and then like a chocolate one as well. So I did like two versions of.
That's
So
incredible.
I would love to know if
I wonder if we
she
can
ate
find
it.
out.
Yeah, well, we can't ask her anymore, can we? But
Well, yeah.
we could ask someone maybe. But yeah, a great experience. A great experience. At the time, maybe didn't really think too much of it. So busy, just the fact that it was just like two or three of us working, small team, just trying to scale the business. They really didn't have much time to really take a step back and think, oh my God, we just made a cake for the Queen. So.
What was your signature cakes at that time? What were the ones that were the most demand that people were asking for, and it was the one you were making the most?
Well, yeah, by that time, by mid 2017, we were making like the mini cheesecakes. So that was quite a high volume because they were for birthdays and per order, people had to order, I think 6 or 12 or something like that. So in terms of volume, that was where we saw it. But in terms of like the big cakes, Fully Loaded was the one that kind of went all the way through until we stopped making the cakes in house, which was the first cake I ever made, basically back at home, which is basically a salted caramel cake, double chocolate biscuit base, and then just overloaded with everything, as the name kind of suggests, Fully Loaded. So that was by far the best seller throughout the last sort of 7 years.
So behind the scenes, so this is all happening and all this craziness and the Queen and the orders, are you having to then kind of change where you're working? You having to now like go into different like facilities and get more people in and things like that? Or are you still managing to do this with just the small group of people that you've had?
So that first year we were at Croydon for a year, shared kitchen. Then we moved over to a tiny little kitchen, like a domestic kitchen, basically, in an army base in Newell. And then we spent the next year there. But throughout that second year, 2018, I was sort of actively looking to raise money, which I'd never done before. So it was all kind of new to me. And I got approached by a producer from Dragon's Den, and I did that. I filmed that in the June, that aired in the September of that year, so that gained a lot of publicity, and off the back of that I received investment, not on Dragon's Den but through other sort of networks which allowed us then to scale up again in year 3, which was 2019, where we got a unit in Red Hill. We fitted out the kitchen, we had like a 4,000 square foot warehouse space, and the team started growing from there, and we went up to about 30 people at one point.
Wow.
In-house.
And they're all doing like the making of them all and the
delivery,
distribution.
all that stuff, yeah. Admin, social media, production, logistics, operations.
Are you seeing at this point the social media and aspect is still quite high in getting your product across? Or did you see there was a slight change? Did you have to start going into a different direction to promote your product?
We've always done it. Everything's been done very, very organically since we started. So we've raised a bit of money here and there, but like in terms of like marketing, we haven't really done a lot of like paid marketing. We just really let in on our social media. It was all direct to consumer. So it was the journey again of conversion was quite simple back then, albeit quite complex in terms of actually delivering the product. We could just plug into our social media, link to our website, people could purchase, and revenue was coming in.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to fulfill the orders, dry ice, polystyrene boxes, high courier costs, all that sort of stuff. So not scalable and not really accessible to a lot of people, hence why we sort of pivoted, outsourced and focused on retail. So yeah, but social media was growing. So Instagram started slowing down, like it was really hard to grow on there organically. But then I think in late 2019, TikTok like popped up, right?
Yeah.
And it was a new emerging platform, and I got on there quite early doors, fairly early doors, and the team were like, "What are you doing? Like this is a platform for like young people dancing, lip syncing.
Yeah.
Like there was no attraction for like businesses or how you could like monetize the platform." And I was like, I'm just going to stick it. I was posting like 5 times a day, and I grew the account to 1 million followers in the first year, and it's our biggest account now, you know. And so again, that was a really good sort of opportunity to grow social media and to grow community and essentially sales, right? So yeah, social media has been an incredible tool for business growth and for exposure, and but more importantly for that community piece. So we've always tried to lead with bringing value through our social media. It's not just about selling the product; it's about recipes, tutorials, tips and tricks, business related things, inspiration, motivation, anything that we can do that brings value to the audience rather than just go and buy our product.
Yeah. So then obviously moving on into that next year would obviously been COVID.
Yes. Yeah.
So what must you have been thinking at that time? Was this a great opportunity to start thinking about new things for Please, or obviously it come to a sudden halt like everything else did? Was you like, okay, what now?
I think there was a blanket sort of like feeling across the nation
Yeah.
and the world, I suppose, just like panic, like what's going to happen,
Yeah.
a real feeling of uncertainty, and a lot of things dropped off, like the events and festivals. So we had no revenue coming in from them, which was quite a big part of our revenue, and but it allowed us to like focus on other things. So we started developing freeze cakes
Yeah.
back in early 2020, the packaging and the recipe and all of that, and did like a pre-order in the May of that year. And then it released in late 2020 or like June or August time in 2020. So it was really busy direct to consumer. But in terms of like growth, which was our focus at that time or just prior to, into retail and outsourcing the production, kind of stood still. Mm-hmm. So we were like set back by a couple of years in that sense, but kind of sustained revenue and like just it was fine, you know, but it didn't really allow us to grow.
Yeah.
Through these other avenues that we wanted to grow through. So yeah, it allowed us to do certain things, but sort of restricted us in other areas, if that makes sense.
So you just spoke about freeze cake. So this is now the new product you've brought in. So you had your cheesecakes. So freeze cakes is now obviously what it says on the tin. It's cheesecakes but frozen.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So explain a bit more about how that concept came and behind it.
People think we just like shoved cheesecake in a tub, but like it's really simple, and it's far from simple. So we made it in house, and it's basically 40% cream cheese. It's scoopable, so out of the freezer, much denser than ice cream, less air than ice cream. So completely different experience to ice cream, which we sort of build on. It's not ice cream, which we've had trouble with since. But it's a different occasion as well for cheesecake. So we thought, look, when you get a big cheesecake, it's generally it's either a birthday or an anniversary or a celebration or a weekend treat. Whereas freeze cakes is like midweek, less space, less waste. Bung it out, you take it out of the freezer, bung it back in, like take a little portion. It's kind of a completely different eating occasion for cheesecake. So new concept, innovation, which is something we're really passionate about. And so it's an exciting product. So it was then, how do we scale this up? Because we were making it by hand. So just to when I say by hand, it's like we would make the cheesecake mix, the actual base mix, in a big mixer, which is fine. But then we'd spoon the mix into a piping bag, pipe a little bit in, then pipe a bit of sauce in, sprinkle a bit of crumb, then the cheesecake, and like layer it up like this. Then put the lid on by hand, then put the tub in a crate by hand, then carry the crate to the freezer.
Wow.
And so it was very sort of labour intensive. And so if we wanted to scale up and make the product more accessible, because going through our website and direct to consumer wasn't super accessible, we'd have to go through retail. And so that was at the point where I was like, how do we scale this up? And so that's kind of when we started exploring the outsourcing of the production and the redevelopment of the product to put it through a completely bespoke production line. Yeah.
So with retail, so who did you reach out to? Who's like kind of like taking it on board, and where can you find it?
Well, so retail just as a whole is like the most brutal industry. It's so hard. It's really hard to get a listing, number one. And then it's really hard to stay listed. But also just like, so the buyers are, there's range reviews 2 times a year, spring, summer, autumn, winter. So you're essentially prepping like a year in advance before you get listed on the shelves, if they list you. And you basically you build up this case study of, like a presentation of data, so like why they should stock you. So our case studies all around frozen dessert, and so frozen dessert across all of the retailers is in decline. So it's shopped by an older demographic, much older shopper. It's shopped seasonally, so at Christmas time it lacks newness and innovation. You know, so there's not all year round sales as well. So we thought that's the opportunity. That's our case to present to them. Like, we're an all year round product. We're a new demographic that we're bringing into the category. We know we can grow the category incrementally and be valued to this retailer. So we basically present it to most of the retailers. Tesco said yes, and then the buyer changed, and so we didn't get it. And like, it's a bit like that. And then it's a brutal sort of process to go through. And then we finally got Waitrose and Co-op which is kind of, it's not like huge distribution. So the product's still fairly inaccessible right now. And that's one of our targets, is to increase that distribution,
Right.
To make the product more and more accessible. So carbon Waitrose, we're on Consort Frozen Food, which sort of supply the local independents and corner shops and places like that, and Go Puff recently, which is like that. It's kind of like that direct to consumer like model that we used to have, because again we can just plug into our platform social media and they can just convert on there.
Right.
They fulfill the orders. Obviously, they've got like service 20% of the UK. So.
Well, this is another new way, isn't it? Everything's like order online, get it quickly as well. So it's another convenience as well. So I suppose you've had to tap into that a little bit, because that's what a lot of consumers are driven to at the moment, aren't they?
Exactly that. Well, it's currently sold out. We can't keep up with demand on the platform. So they've ordered, I think, 9 pallets, which equates to about, I don't know, it's like 1,400 units a pallet. So I don't know, 9, 10. I'm not going to do the maths.
Don't get me to do the maths.
10,000 or something, 11, 12,000 units in 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks. So pretty good demand on there. A really, really interesting channel for us to grow, right? Because of that nice conversion to our socials. So really, really interested. And it's kind of like UK wide, really convenient, like you say. Like I've used the app and the platform, and it's kind of like within 15 minutes to half an hour, it's at your door. You can't do that anywhere else.
No.
So trying to sell that product to other people, to the audience or consumers, is much easier than saying, you need to get up off your sofa, your comfy sofa, go down to Co-op, pick up the product. It's a bit more of a process and a harder conversion. So, an interesting channel for us to really focus on.
So with all that being said, how's it that now gone back on behind the scenes again? Because obviously you've got to try and keep up getting the product done and out as quick as you can, obviously. So where are you at now? Like...
We outsource production, so just sort of like taking a few steps back. I didn't really go into that in too much detail, but basically it's taken about 3 years to outsource, you know. So I approached it. We basically found a factory in Belgium, so it's manufactured in Belgium, and they've got huge capacities. They've got like the infrastructure, the health and safety accreditations, and they put in a completely bespoke production line for freeze cakes. And so we can now scale up with this partner who've been incredibly supportive over the last few years. So that capacity now is like we can produce 10 million units a year. We just need to make sure that supply chain is coming in. We've got enough stock in the UK because it's produced in Europe now, and just make sure that we're on top of it really. So they're incredible partners, incredible factory. Incredible team.
Does it give you more opportunity, have that platform to then go back to another retailer to then show them because you've done that baseline and now you're out there? Does it make it easier to go to another, like your Tesco's or somewhere else, and say, this is what my product's at, and it makes it easier, or it's still just as hard?
Absolutely, yeah. So what they want to see now is data.
Right.
So they'll ask for, what's your rate of sale?
Mm-hmm.
What's your value rate of sale? What's your various of the metrics and variables that they'll ask for, and if there's a good enough case, again, Tesco's is probably the hardest one when you need a rate of sale of X, because basically it's such a process, an admin process to get set up on their systems and through their network. They need to know it's going to sell through. They need to know it's going to get picked up and sell, basically. So for us to present that, look, it's selling that at that rate of sale that you want in this store, in this location, in this distribution. We take it, and it builds a better case study, right? So yeah, absolutely, they'll look at data. It'll be data driven now. Now we're in retail. It's not a new product. It's not like an it's not on the shelf right now. It'll be completely data driven. So yeah, we need to increase performance and improve that, and then that will open up more distribution in the current retailers, and then eventually other retailers in the UK. But we're also speaking to people in Australia, retailers in Australia, in Europe and Middle East and America and stuff like that. So
amazing.
Global domination.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously there will be a lot of challenges, and there sounds like there has been a lot of challenges. And obviously we know that there has been a challenge recently with Audi, shall we say?
Yeah.
I know you don't talk about it too much, but obviously they've tried to take your product and use it as their own. How has that affected you? Obviously, mentally, the company. Like, what have you had to deal with? So
I found out about it a few weeks ago, and I thought, look, this is. We've never been against own label. We always believe in own label, and we think it's going to build the category, the frozen dessert category. And the more people that are watching it and have eyeballs on it, it's going to grow it. Therefore, it's going to help support our brand as well. And there's always going to be healthy competition, which I think is great. The fact is, they used on the tub freeze cake minus the S, which is the same name as our product, and they also used our slogan, "It's not ice cream," which is kind of on our packaging, but also across all of our marketing, our email marketing, all our socials, everything that we've done since we've launched it has sort of led back to that. It's not ice cream. So yeah, the flavour combinations are exactly the same, and so I don't think it's super supportive in terms of building category. I think it's more of a hijacking a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've been quite vocal about that, and I think I'm working through potential resolutions here with Aldi, so we are in contact. And ultimately, I want a positive outcome with this.
Yeah.
But we are a team of 3 people. They are a company, a conglomerate of 46,000 people, and so it is slightly disheartening when all that work and graft and years and sacrifices that we made to build that kind of just gets nicked quite blatantly. Like there's obvious trademark infringements there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm trying to work through it now, and hopefully there's a positive outcome. But we're trying to stand up for small businesses because I know it's happened before many times, and I think it's only right that if they're gonna bring out a similar product, it's not identical.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah, I mean, word for word is a bit extreme.
Yeah, it's extreme and obvious, you know? It's
Yeah.
obvious. It's not even... Normally they'll tiptoe around it a little bit and call it something a little bit different, but they might have the same colour combinations and like whatever. But this is like for like, word for word.
So with challenges like that and the impact that it has on a personal level, how does it affect you like mentally, and how do you deal with it? What outlet do you have? And, you know, how do you have to almost stop and be like, okay, this is another challenge. How do I deal with this?
I've become very accustomed to these sort of situations over the last 7.5 years. I think maybe when it first started, I would have been more stressed, had more anxiety, and not known how to deal with it as well as I do today, I suppose. My sort of ethos is like good days, bad days. So there's going to be bad days, and they're the days you learn, and then the good days you embrace and appreciate. And so you kind of expect it, right? But I also like training and exercise, and I think
was
that's
just about to
really
say.
really important for me as well. Like I notice such a difference from a mental perspective. If I don't train or exercise one day, I'll see a dip in my mental state. And I think that it's a bit of a cliche, and I know a lot of people talk about it, but it really does. It's really such a great medicine for your mental health, I think, and training and playing sport and eating well and having that balance and just finding that balance, that equilibrium in life really helps your mental state, because business, I find it can be debilitating in terms of my mental. Like I really struggle when it gets tough, and you feel the pressure of it, and there's a lot of pressure sometimes. So just working out the balance to balance that out through exercise and talking
and support, having that right support.
Exactly that. So yeah, that's been really key. So
Yeah, good. Going to the community side of things, I've spoken to you in the past that Pleese it's a big thing for you to have community involved, and wanting people from the outside to have an involvement is key for you. Talk a bit more about like that, what that kind of thing for you is.
Well, community is everything. So like that social media, it wasn't just social media about selling products, and we touched on it earlier about like bringing value to our audience and building community, and it's becoming like really prevalent about how valuable having an audience is. And there's loads of outlets like social media and podcasting and all that sort of stuff that can create audiences and communities. And yes, we spoke about, and I think like this ambassador program and involving our community more is something that's like really important to us. So not only not only amplifying our voice and our vision and our mission, but like also taking them on the journey with us. Like it becomes more real, more relatable. Than it sort of it helps that word of mouth marketing kind of thing. And so there's a few concepts. One of them is the ambassador program that we have worked on previously, hasn't come to fruition just yet. And also another one is like a focus group on like NPD and new products. So historically, I've always been the one who, or internally, I've always tried the product and worked with the internal team to bring that product to life. But actually, I think like bringing in our community to that and going on the journey from concept or idea almost to shelf, and bringing them through each stage of this. Like we try the product, we all feedback, we all have input. What do we like? What don't we like? Then going back and doing second sample, bringing everyone back in, the changes again, packaging, design, format, functionality. And then, you know, like they feel really part of it. And for me, it's validation on the product, right? That's the consumer. These are the people that are going to essentially purchase the product. So having that process in everything that we do in terms of NPD and product is really interesting. We're not doing it currently, but I'm seriously thinking about sort of putting it out there.
Well, I think as well, you're going to have pure honesty as well, aren't you? You're going to have someone go, I'm not keen on that. And you're going to, as you say, you're going to hear it rather than someone buying it off the shelf and what their feel of it is at home, where you're going to hear it there and then of, oh, I like that, or I know it's too sweet, or can we have that flavour? And I think it's a brilliant idea, and I'm so on board trying it out.
I'm sure it happens in like bigger companies, but I feel like they're like purchased groups of people. They like bring in like it's not like community led.
No,
where you're going to get a really honest answer. You might get a very technical answer on the product, or like that crunch isn't crunchy enough, or this or that. But like real honest feedback on what they want from us as a brand is, I think, even more important. So.
Yeah, and I think it's better almost because it's, as you say, it's the people, it's them that's buying your product. So they who else to have that honest opinion on it than them, because that's where I suppose you can make your tweaks rather than, as you say, someone on a professional level, because obviously they've got their reasons why they want to do it, I guess, you know, more than that than I do, where someone like myself or someone else would be honest with it, and you think, okay, I know they'll like that.
Yeah, well, it's 100% real. Like there's no other motive to it other than like wanting to be involved in the brand, and for us wanting our community to be involved as well. So it's like a real two-way street there, and I think that's really key. So yeah, I think there'll be some interesting results and feedback and products developed through that process.
Yeah.
Other than me just coming up with an idea and trying to bring that to life quite on a fairly lonely journey, right? So like Pleese cakes, it was like we did 400 or 500 samples with the manufacturer, and so it'd be a case of them sending it over to us, and I'd try it by myself and maybe some of the team, and it was like feedback, changes, or I would go out there on my own and try it, and it's like not as nice, not as I suppose romantic the journey. Like, you know, when like I want to that community kind of bringing them into that journey, I feel like is.
Well, you've got all of that.
More satisfying, more fulfilling from maybe a selfish perspective, but like also I think that from a consumer perspective, it's kind of nice as well. I don't think that there's much opportunity to do that with brands these days, you know?
In a way, I don't think it's in a selfish. Yes, I know what you mean from your point, but I think it makes someone from the outside that's at home going to have it on their sofa, having that opportunity of being part of something that you don't get to do, you know, because have to be told, I actually really like that, or I thought this flavour, to know that you've added something to it is such a selfless thing, because you're trusting, to me personally, you're trusting people that you don't necessarily know too well or work in that industry to give you that feedback that you can go, okay, I'm going to trust the process here. This is what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really valuable. I think by bringing people in, they're then going to tell other people about it. Exactly. And I think, I think it's a cool concept. And I'm hopefully I've got these samples at home. They're sitting in my freezer, which I keep like dipping into because they're so good. This new concept, I can't talk about it really, but they probably won't launch this year.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. Watch this space. But they're really good. And yeah, I'd love. I recorded the video this morning about putting out on. So it was a video like anyone interested in becoming like part of our a focus group or would be interested in being part of it to develop and help develop and taste test these products.
Great.
So yeah, it's kind of like relevant and kind of happening, I suppose.
So with everything you've told us about, obviously family, what do your family think? I'm sure they're supportive, but how supportive they've been? Has that been challenging at times because it's been, your work has taken you away from home? How's it been with family?
Huge sacrifices. There's been it's got easier since it was outsourced production. I was obviously heavily involved in the production when we were at Red Hill in the kitchen, and I was in the kitchen quite a lot, and it was intense. And even prior to that, it was very intense at the other units and the growth journey of. So that there's been very stressful moments, and there's been pressure on the family. My mum was the delivery driver for us for many years, for the first four years or so. So
Really?
she grafted hard. She was up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, going out delivering for 18 hours a day or whatever. So commitment and sacrifice and support from my whole family. So, but at times quite shocking and quite intense and overwhelming. And now I've got a young daughter who arrived about 2 years ago, and luckily it was just around the time we were outsourcing production. So it was just basically one stressful situation to another. Really,
Yeah.
which is business stressful situation to a stressful situation with a newborn baby. But no, it's fun, and like everyone started adapted to it, and everyone's very supportive. All my friends and family are very supportive. So,
do you find a balance now? Have you got a balance with work and family life, or does it just depend where you're at in work?
Way more balanced now. Like I don't work weekends. I don't work late, really. Like I really try and focus on family at the weekend and like train during the week. And yeah, I think that's the key thing for me, is just trying to find that balance. But I know we're within startup culture, you have to be prepared for like
long nights,
that sacrifice right at the start to get it going. And unfortunately, there's a bit of an imbalance, right? But yeah, I think we've found balance with it. It's very flexible now. Like we work from home, we work remotely, we float about, we do a bit of content, we're involved in the creative MPD and like all that sort of stuff. So it's a really nice business model now. It's like really simple, really easy to manage, less people to manage, smaller payroll, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're kind of in a nice position now. I'm enjoying this phase.
What does the future hold for Pleese?
Apart from world domination, we are on a mission for people of all ages to share spectacular experiences with deliciously disruptive treats. That's our mission. So we want to become the world's most exciting dessert brand and bring newness, innovation, quality products to various categories, territories around the world. That's really our mission, and we're at the start of it. I think we're really, really at the start of it. We only launched into retail a year ago, so it's kind of year one on this business model. Yeah. So we've got a long way to go. We've got incredible capacity to scale up now. We've got incredible partners. We've got incredible interest globally, and so it's exciting. But we want to take over, really.
Why not?
Yeah.
Dream big.
Dream big. That's it.
Dream big. Have you got like a little book of all your little ingredients and flavours and things like that?
We've got a good pipeline of innovation. There's some really interesting ones, and there's one that's public. We're the first UK company to sign up to Tony Chocolonely's Open Chain Initiative. So there's some potentially really interested MPD there. Yeah, loads. There's loads. Like it's not just freeze cakes. That's all I can say. It's not just going to be freeze cakes. It's going to be a plethora of incredible desserts and premium quality products.
Exciting.
It is.
Well,
it really
hopefully
is.
you will come back to Jill Spills with a whole.
We'll do a yearly thing, a yearly catch up or a quarterly catch up or whenever you want. I'll be back. So.
And show us what's happened next.
Yeah,
I'm really excited for you. I think it's fantastic. I think the community aspect is fantastic. Your drive for what you want to do and getting the community involved. I just think, you know, I think you're going to go far.
Thank you.
I really
Thank
do.
You. I really appreciate
I
it.
love Pleese, and hopefully you
Fingers
will.
crossed we get there, eh?
Yeah, you will. You 1,000% will. Well, thank you for coming on today.
No problem.
It's
Thanks
been
for
an
having me.
absolute pleasure talking to you, and I've enjoyed listening to the journey of Pleese. And as I
Thank
say,
you.
hopefully you'll be back on
I will
again
be. I'm sure of it.
with world domination.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
No worries.